In the previous video, you learned about the different types of SwiftUI charts, but there was one particular chart that was missing, the pie chart. It's newly introduced and it's available in iOS 17. Let's take a look at how we use it. It's important to mention that pie charts and donut charts are only available in iOS 17 or later, which means that we have to use Xcode 15 or later. As of the time of this recording, Xcode 15 is in beta, so that's what we're using today. This is the previous charts demo that we did in our last video. And here we showed how to do different types of charts like bar charts and line charts and all of those things that are currently already available. We're going to be using this project because the sample data is already there. So in case you didn't see that last video, let's briefly go over what the sample data is. So it's a sample sleep data, and each sleep data point consists of a day, number of hours, and the type of sleep it was. And then inside the content view, just to make things very simple and easy, we just declared a static array here of sample data points. So we might have, Monday 6 hours, and then Monday's 2 hours again for a nap. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have 3 Friday data points for nap and accidental sleep. And then Saturday and Sunday, 7 hours each. Okay, so now let's go ahead and put this sample data into a pie chart. Step 1, you have to import the charts framework at the top. So here you can see that we've already done that. Step 2, go down to the view area where you're going to put your view code and create a new chart view, which is also what we've already done. So I'm going to go ahead and remove some of this code just to make things a little more clear. And yeah, let me just remove all of this for now. Okay. And then I am going to comment the bar mark out. Okay, so this is the chart view, right? It has an opening bracket and a closing bracket. Inside the chart view, we are going to use a for each to loop through the data. This is that sample sleep data that I just showed you above here. And for each data point, we are going to decide how we want to display that data point. So as you saw in the previous chart tutorial and earlier before I commented this out, the type of chart that gets shown all depends on what type of mark you want to use. So there's bar mark, line mark, and all of those types of marks that we went through in the previous video. But to display your data in a pie chart, we use what's called a sector mark. So let's go ahead and create a new sector mark here. So you'll notice that the only required parameter that you need is angle. Back here in bar mark, and actually a lot of the other marks, you have to specify an X and a Y because most of those charts have an X and a Y axis, right? Whereas the pie chart only has, like, each slice of the pie represents one dimension of data. So that's why you only have to specify the angle. These other parameters we will go through later on in this lesson. These are just optional ways to customize how the chart looks. So let's go ahead and start the sector mark and use the angle parameter. Now the type of data is a plottable value. Okay, so this is exactly the same as these right here. These are plottable values. So with a plottable value, you have to specify the label and the value. So let's go ahead and do that. Now the label, I am going to make each slice of the pie chart represent how many hours of sleep. And the overall chart, the entire pie chart, represents how much sleep I got that week. So let's call this hours. And the value would be D, and I'm going to make the slice of the pie the hours, right? And it's all one color right now, but we will update that real soon. Now what's important to note here is that I don't actually have to calculate the angle. I just have to say this is the data that I want to represent with the pie slice, and it will calculate how big that pie slice should be depending on the total amount of hours and how many hours this particular data point represents. So all of that is done automatically. So in order to clearly see the slices, let's add a foreground style to the sector mark. I'm going to use this one, foreground style by. It's like, how do we want to differentiate the different slices? How do we want to color them? So again, it's by plottable value, and I want to customize it by day so that I can clearly see which day I got the most sleep. So d.day. You'll see that we automatically get a legend. Let's just put some padding on the chart right now so it looks a little nicer. All right, there we go. So we have the 7 pie charts representing the hours of sleep that I got on each day. Wednesday looks to have been the best. I can get rid of this bar mark now. And essentially that's how easy it is to create a pie chart. But there are some customizations that we can do to it. For starters, let's add some lines in between each of the pie segments. So this is where those other parameters come into play. Let me just adjust the preview so we can see the code a little better. Perfect. Okay, so another parameter, if you remember, was angular inset. So this one is just a number. So if I put 1, you can see that it breaks everything up by 1 point. Or perhaps I could put 5 if you want like a huge break. We'll put 1. That looks pretty good. The other thing that you saw is what's called, oops, added a comma in the wrong place, is called an inner radius. And this represents a circle in the middle of the pie chart, an empty space where you can turn this pie chart into a donut chart. So let's take a look at that. The data type is mark dimension. All right, so let's just hit dot. And there are a couple of methods that we can use to very easily create one, depending on how we want to specify this empty space in the middle. So fixed would just be a fixed number. Oh, I have to put a comma. Oops. There we go. So 40 would just put an empty circle with the diameter of 40, 60, and so on and so forth. What you might want to do instead is to use a ratio. Because a ratio, let's say, you know, I want the circle in the middle to be 50% or maybe 90%, something like that. But this is how you would create a donut chart. One last customization I want to leave you with is corner radius. So you apply this out here, and you can make your pie segments have rounded corners. Now that's an exaggeration what I've done here. It actually looks like so pudgy, but you can just make it more slightly rounded with the corner radius modifier. Pie charts are so useful, and I'm really glad they made it easy to use and easy to add to your view. Now, next week, we're going to go back to basics and we're going to show how to use a variety of SwiftUI components with the goal of building up a reference library on this channel that you can access whenever you're wondering how to use a particular component. In the meantime, if you're new to SwiftUI, check out our 3-hour masterclass, no experience required, meant for beginners. And by the end of it, you'll have built your first app. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.